Episode 105 of the Super Parent Syndrome, and I'm your host, Dr. Nick Fanning. Today's topic is, well, I wouldn't do it that way. Sit back, relax, let's get started.
Parenting in the 21st century is ever evolving, and while you balance work, kids, and your sanity, it's easy to feel discouraged. Welcome to the Super Parent Syndrome with your host, Dr. Nick Fanning.
So yesterday, we were tackling our honey-do list. So this weekend, my wife was on a kick to get the family room in the basement done. And in our new house that we got, there are some things that we want to do. One of the things is ripping out this kitchenette that they have in the basement and making a large family room out of it. So nothing wrong with that. I think it's a great idea. However, when you have 5 kids, it's not always the easiest to do projects like this. So it comes down to the fact of like who's holding the baby when, can we have grandparents help out, and also we're trying to lift these large cabinets and things and carrying them out to the side. So it comes down to this, is that I started ripping things out, and my wife is like, "Are you mad?" And I was like, "No, I'm having a great time. I'm doing great." And she's like, "Well, you're just bashing and, just crap, just like breaking shit up and throwing it around." And I was like, "That's demolition, babe. That's how we do it." Now, here's the thing. She was just like, "Well, I just don't do it that way." And I was like, "Well, I'm not doing anything wrong. This is how I do it." And it comes down to this, is that there are expectations of how projects can and cannot go. And so I step aside. I was like, "Hey, I'll hold the baby if you want to do your thing, and we can just take turns, but realize this is the way I do things. And when I'm demo and ripping stuff out, then there's going to be things that are going to break, and I'm going to be tossing pieces of wood into the center into this pile, and then we'll carry it up, and that's just how it is. I'm not going to waste time carefully setting things apart that we're just going to throw away or have destroyed or even burn." And it came down to the fact that sometimes you just have to sit down and lay out expectations. So it came down to about the third time I did something she didn't really like. It came to said, I was like, "All right, babe, either you got to be accepting of what I'm doing and how I'm doing it, or you've got to take over and lead the way. So if you want me to demolition this, I don't see the point of going super slow and methodical and careful with this. I just want to get done and over with, so we can start with the rebuild phase. So we can, one, clean it up so the kids have someplace safe to do while we work on this here and there." And it came down to, there was frustrations, there was tension, there was a collision, and yet we resolved it. And guess what? We have a basement that's clean and cleared out, and we will get it remodeled. Now, here's the thing. What we'll really learn from this is that if we would have had that conversation and just got it done and over with the first time, it wouldn't have been a half hour of her making little faces or little noises. I wouldn't have to worry about, her thinking I was mad at her or things like that. And she was coming up with reasons why I was acting the way I was, versus her just getting clarity from me. So on her end, because she didn't have clarity, she thought I was mad. She thought I didn't want to do the project, and I was throwing a bit temper tantrum. And then also she was like, I'm trying to think of any other assumptions she had there. No. And then on the other end, I had the assumptions as that I can't do anything right, that there was nothing that I could do that make her happy with this, and that I was ultimately going to make her mad and frustrated with the way I was doing things. So as you can see, on both ends, there was big assumptions that was happening that wasn't going to serve anybody at all. These things show up in various ways in our lives. If anybody is known, is if anybody's tried doing any kind of home improvement project, painting, or even moving, we know that there can be tension between the spouses and ability to communicate. We'll often joke like, "Yeah, we got moved and we're somehow still married." We laugh at those things, but it comes down to those points of that nobody ever does things the same, and that's okay. But at the same time, take the moment to create clarity. Take the time to explain the way you're doing things and why you're doing it, so that the other person has clarity. And that way, overall, you win the game. Now, like I said, it would have been way better, instead of having this half-hour attention, that we would have just sat down and said like, "Hey, this is the way I grew up. This is how it's going to be," and just laid out expectations and how things were going to happen. And really, it came down to me just saying like, "Hey, this is my goal, is I'm going to rip out this part. I'm going to rip out this part. These 2 sections I'm hoping to resell. And for the most part, a lot of this, since it's custom made by a home builder, it's going to have to be destroyed. And I'm sorry about that, but there are going to be things we're going to rip out and just use a hammer to destroy. And some of the stuff we're going to unscrew carefully and carry it out nicely." I should have said like, "Does that make sense?" And there would have been that clarity, versus me just trying to defend myself the whole time and her trying to do things to make me positive or try to, justify the reason why we're doing things now. gosh, it's kind of weird that we have to do a whole podcast on this, but when I look around on social media, when I talk to my friends and families, this is a very common thing. Clarity trumps the confusion and the disconnect that there could be. And so your goal is that this happens whether you realize it or not. Yes, it's very obvious with spouses because we don't mind speaking up, but think about with our kids. They may don't always understand why we're asking them to do things. And there are times, yes, we have to tell them to do something without them talking back. But for the most part, we could be taking a little bit more time to explain the things to them so they understand why we're doing things. Now, if your kids are anything like mine, you might do that, and you might do that 3 times. And eventually you just say like, hey, dude, I've asked this 3 times. I've told you why 3 times, and you still haven't done it. Get to work. But at the same time, take the moment to try. Take the moment to slow down, and you might have a lot better results. Okay? Imagine if we had this mindset with our parents, our coworkers, our boss, even the people that we're trying to mentor, and especially our family. Now, what's furthermore and more complex is trying to do this for yourself. It is not enough to say, I'm going to start working out every day and lose weight. You need to take the time to explain to yourself why you're doing it. What is your big reason why you're doing it? What could happen if, XYZ happens? What could you do to make sure that you have clarity, even to yourself, to get the goals and things that you want? And that is the black belt level of the 1% Club. So I hope that you enjoyed today's podcast. If you like it, please share it and leave a review on iTunes. That would help me to reach even more people. And I appreciate your time and your wisdom. Thanks so much.
Thanks for listening to another episode of The Super Parent Syndrome. Please be sure to visit peptalksforparents.com for more content and our free newsletter. And remember, you are not alone.